Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary and I have not brushed my hair since yesterday. So this is a book versus movie adaptation review of the prequel to the Hunger Games series, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I actually meant to read this book when it first came out, 2020. I don't actually know when this book came out. Hopefully you can look it up and find out for yourself. It's not that important to the story, but I meant to read it then and I didn't get to it until this year. And the only reason I got to it this year is because the movie was coming out. And I was like, I really would like to see that movie in theaters because I saw the Hunger Games movies in theaters and really enjoyed seeing them in theaters. Although I never saw the last Hunger Games movie, like Catching Fire Part 2, never saw it. Don't know, I mean, I know what happened in the book, but like I never saw the film. I went and saw this movie. I finished the book earlier last week and then the movie came out in my town on the 16th. I think it was supposed to premiere on the 17th in the States. We had two showings on the 16th. I didn't go see it until yesterday, which was Saturday, which was the 18th. I went and saw A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I made my husband go with me, and I have some thoughts. So the way I format these reviews, this has been a pretty long intro for me. Usually they're not this long, but the way I format these reviews is I'm gonna talk about the book first, in spoiler-free terms, just like reviewing the book and how I felt about it. I might like light spoilers for the Hunger Games series as a whole, just because I'm doing this review as if you have not read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but you are a fan of the Hunger Games series. I hope that makes sense. Then I will do the same thing with the film, where I'll talk generally about my thoughts about how the film did at adapting the book without spoiling anything that happens in either, and then also how I felt the film did in general as a movie. And then after all of that is done, I will give you a chance to leave if you don't want to be spoiled, and then I will talk about the spoilers for both the book and the film and the key differences that I noted. And you can let me know in the comments down below any differences that you noticed that I did not notice or did not talk about in this video, because I'm very, very curious about that. But without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the book. First, how I felt about it, my final thoughts. I meant to do this like quick, brief, spoiler-free review of the book before I saw the movie, and then I just never got around to it. So here it is. A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, if you don't know, I guess we'll do a quick recap of what it is about. It's a prequel to the Hunger Games, but it's following the perspective of President Snow when he's a teenager and his time in the Capitol. So he grew up during the war, and then this book primarily takes place 10 years after the war in the 10th annual Hunger Games. And the premise of the book is that President Snow is a student at this academy, and he's one of the top 24, I think, students in his class. And so he gets assigned a class project where basically he is working with Dr. Gall, who is the creator of the games, the Hunger Games, and she is the game master. And he and his classmates are supposed to come up with strategies to get more people to watch the games, because no one's really watching the games. And the whole point of the games is that all of Panem, which is this like fictional world, is supposed to be watching these children kill each other. So that's the premise. People have stopped watching these games because they're horrific. And so these students, President Snow included, he's not president at this point, he's just Coriolanus Snow, it is their job to try to figure out how to get more people to watch this game. And then the other key thing about Coriolanus during this time, there's a couple of really like important things to his character that for various reasons, I don't know if the film really tackled quite well, but we'll get to that when we get to the film portion. Coriolanus is from the Snow family, which was historically a very wealthy family. They lost all of their money during the war. So Coriolanus, his classmates are still very wealthy. He is not. He's pretending to be rich to fit in with these other really wealthy capital kids, okay? He's pretty much starving. He lives with his grandmam, which is his grandmother, and his cousin Tigress. Tigress has a job which she's pretending that she doesn't have, and like there's just a lot of like scheming behind the scenes to make them appear like the Snow family of years past, but they are not anymore, right? And so that's one big thing. The other big thing is that Coriolanus' father was killed by rebel troops in the war, okay? Coriolanus' father also was really good friends with the headmaster at Coriolanus' school. At some point, they stopped being friends, and Coriolanus' headmaster hates him. Like, if you think Professor Snape from the Harry Potter series, it's like that kind of thing, where he's just like, Coriolanus doesn't know the backstory, so he has got no idea why this man is so, like, aggressive and has so much animosity towards him, if that makes sense. Those are like the big things about Coriolanus' backstory, but also Coriolanus really has this like desire to be the best, okay? He really wants to be the best, but also he needs to be the best because the best person gets a scholarship and he can't go to college without it. So that's the premise. So in the Hunger Games, Coriolanus ends up getting assigned a female tribute from District 12 to be the mentor. So that's what they're doing this year. The top 24 students at his school are given this mentorship opportunity, and they're going to mentor someone, and then the person at the end will get what's called the Plinth Prize, which is named after Sojourner Plinth's father. Sojourner Plinth is a kid in Coriolanus' class. He's originally from the districts. He's from District 2. He gets moved to the capital, and because his dad is like an arms dealer, I think is what the premise is. They never really go into that in the movie, but that's like essentially the gist. Sojourner is like on the outside because he's from the district, so he feels really tied to the district still. And so there's a lot of like foiling between Coriolanus and Sejanus as the book and the movie go on. But Coriolanus gets assigned this female tribute from District 12 who is like part of a ragtag singing group, essentially. And so she sings all the time. And if you don't know, in the movie, she's played by Rachel Zegler, I think is her name, who is the girl who's going to play Snow White in the 2025 now Snow White movie. And if you haven't seen all of the interviews with her for that movie, you can go look it up if you want. But my whole view of her in this film was tainted because of that. So anyways, that's like the premise, the setup of everything, okay? How did I think the book was? So I know a lot of people were really disappointed that this book ended up being about President Snow because they wanted the backstory of some of the other characters. I think Hayworth was one character that people were hoping to see the backstory of. Or Haymitch, is that his name? The guy who trains Katniss. You know who I'm talking about, okay? The only other District 12 person who's ever won the Hunger Games in the original trilogy, okay? Who else did they like want to be they wanted different people's backstories. It ended up being President Snow, and people were like, why should we care? Why do we care about President Snow? He ends up being like very evil. Like, I don't really want to feel sorry for him. And here's the thing that I'll say. You don't really feel sorry for him. I think this book is really interesting, and so I read it after everyone was already mad, and so I knew the whole time going into it that it was going to be President Snow's backstory. I was aware what I was getting myself into, and I thought that Suzanne Collins did a really interesting thing in this book, which is that she really tried to show President Snow as this like very complicated character, which I can appreciate. I really do appreciate, and I don't feel like this is even like a villain origin story necessarily. It's more like a person who you see all of the things stacked against him and like, how is he going to get out of this trap, right? So it's almost like the capital or the world is sort of like Snow's own version of the Hunger Games, where like he has to be the last one standing because otherwise he won't get this money and he won't be able to get out of the situation that his family has gotten into, right? So for those reasons, it was very interesting. I will say I found parts of this book really, really boring to read. I listened to this as an audiobook. Parts of it were pretty boring. I also I didn't love the way the audiobook narrator did Lucy Gray, which is his tribute's voice. So if you're gonna read this as an audiobook, I don't know if I can necessarily recommend that. I think I gave this book 4 stars because I did really enjoy parts of it. I just felt like overall it wasn't like a favorite book. And 4 stars is honestly probably a little generous, but after seeing the movie, I really enjoyed this story, I guess, if that makes sense. So now I'm gonna switch gears quickly to talk about my non-spoiler thoughts of the film. First of all, cinematography, beautiful. The people who make the Hunger Games do such a good job of really capturing the costumeness of Panem. And I know that this book or this movie was not quite as far in the future as the Hunger Games that we know and love, but the costumes are still phenomenal. The cinematography is still great. Rachel Zegler, as much as I giggle about her, has a beautiful singing voice. I've not seen her in West Side Story, but I would like to watch it. She does seem very Maria, so that would work. I will say Tom Blythe is who they picked to play President Snow, and that was such a disrespectful move to put someone. He's so good looking. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else, but he looks very familiar to me. But it just, the movies are done so well, right? They're visually stunning. The sounds are great quality. And just the concepts. I don't know how closely they work with Suzanne Collins on these books to films, but they do such a good job of really capturing the world that she has built. So that's one thing that I always commend the movies of the Hunger Games for. Is that what you read on the page really does come to life in the movie. And it's beautifully done, I think. In my opinion, you can have your own opinion. I also think that this movie did a really good job of showing everything that was really important, and they condensed it down. Because obviously this is a 500 and something, 600 page book, and a lot happens, right? So it starts with the Capitol and the Hunger Games, and then things go awry. The Hunger Games end just before 50% of the book, and I do think the second half of the book goes a little long, which the movie condenses and cuts down. That's one of the differences between them, but I think it works really well in the film. And I feel like that's all I can really say without like going into spoilers. So I do think this adaptation is very faithful to the original work in the ways that it needed to be, and it changed the things that potentially needed to be changed. There are some things in the actual Hunger Games portion of this book, or this movie, yeah, that I wish they hadn't changed. Because I feel like it does do some changes to the characters, but, you know, all in all, I think this is a really faithful adaptation. I think if you liked the book, you will really like the movie. I will say, this is the one thing I was going to say. My husband went and saw the movie with me. He did not read the book, and we left the movie theater, and I was like, did you like it? Because I really enjoyed the movie. Like, I liked the movie more than I liked the book, I think. But having said that, I asked him if he liked it, and he was like, I didn't really get it. Like, there were things that happened that I like just didn't understand. And I think having read the book and knowing that those things were coming helped me understand the movie. Like, the movie didn't have to do as much explaining because I had read the book, but I also think the movie didn't do as much explaining, so I think some people who didn't read the book might have been confused about certain things that happened. That's what I'm going to say about that. Now, I'm going to hopefully quickly, I'm already 13 minutes in, I'm going to talk about spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled for A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, like the plot, you can go ahead and exit out here. I'm so glad you joined us. You can subscribe to my channel if you like videos like this, and like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in another video very soon. If you are going to stick around, we are going to just go ahead and jump right into the plot of this movie / book and what is really different. So the first like stark difference that I noticed is the plinth prize, right? So in the book, the plinth prize doesn't become a thing until after it is announced. Like, these students know they're the top 24 in their class. They know that they're getting this assignment. They know that they're working on the Hunger Games. Like, they're aware of all of that. In the film, they think that the plinth prize is going to be announced, and it's the top student of their class, right? So they think this top student is getting a scholarship. That's what's happening at the very beginning of this movie. And Coriolanus really hopes that he won this scholarship. So he's really excited about that. And then it turns out that the plinth prize is actually going to be the reward to the person who does the best job at getting the Hunger Games viewed, right? So it's the person who does a good job of like really, what is the word? Like, getting the word out about the Hunger Games, and the way you're going to do it is through the person you are mentoring, right? And so they do the whole mentorship assignment thing, and Coriolanus gets assigned Lucy Gray Baird from District 12. And he initially sees her and is like, great, I got this girl, but then she like has a snake attack the daughter of the mayor or whatever, and she sings this song, and he's like, I can work with this, right? So that was one of the key differences to me, is that in the book, it's like, there is no prize money at first. Like, that's not why he's doing it. He's doing it just because he has to for this class. And in the movie, it's very clear that it is a like prize, okay? And like, that's like, the prize is for this, and it's like the goalposts are being moved for the students, if that makes sense. There are a couple other things. At one point towards the beginning, Coriolanus and Clemencia, I think is his class partner, I think is her name Clem, I think he calls her. They're paired up on everything. And so they are supposed to do this proposal for Dr. Gall, right? And they're supposed to like say how they think they could get more interaction with the Hunger Games to get more people to watch it, because that's the whole purpose of this like class project experiment thing. And Coriolanus has all these ideas. He's like, well, if we could send money, if we could have people pay money to like send gifts to the participants. He's like, also his thing is he really wants Lucy Gray. He's like, if you can give the Capitol or the people of Panem somebody to root for and somebody to root against, they will watch it. And he just, what I think is so interesting is that he just genuinely like understands this, and everyone else is like, who is gonna watch these horrifying games? And that's what I was thinking when I read the first Hunger Games. I was like, who the hell is watching these children rip each other apart? But this book really did tackle that by saying, like, you give people a hero and a villain, and they want to see it, like, they want to see it pan out. Like, they are interested in seeing who will win. And I think historically we've seen that over time with, like, I don't know, people used to have, like, the gladiators, people go to public executions, all sorts of things along these lines. And I know that's not like perfect comparisons to the Hunger Games, but I do think it's like, it just is interesting that like, that is basically humanity's like thing, is they want someone to root for and someone to root against. And so Coriolanus is like, easy peasy, we give them someone that they can root for, that they will like. And so I thought that was really interesting. But the big difference between the book and the movie is, in both, Clemencia doesn't help write this proposal. When they turn it in, to Dr. Gall, Clemencia says that she did help write the proposal. And if she'd helped write the proposal, then she would have touched the paper. The paper is now in the snake tank. And Dr. Gall's like, Clemencia, get the paper out of the snake tank. And she reaches in and gets bit by one of the snakes. So in the book, Dr. Gall didn't tell her before that the snakes were going to bite her, basically. In the movie, she knows that these snakes are going to bite her. Also, in the book, we see Clemencia later, and she's, like, turning snake-like. Like, her eyes are yellow with, like, a slit pupil thing like a snake's. Her tongue is darting out. She's growing pink and blue scales to match these snakes. And so that is all happening to her in the book. In the movie, we don't see her again after she gets bit by the snake. We don't know what happened. We don't know. In the book, there's this big thing about how, like, Dr. Gall said that she had the flu, and that's what she told her parents. And that's, like, hinted at in the movie that that's what she's gonna say. But, like, in the book, that's, like, a low-lying threat. And I can't remember who it is, but someone else gets, like, sick or dies, and she says it was the flu. And people are like, oh, yeah, the flu. And Coriolanus knows that it was not the flu, that Dr. Gall did something to, like, harm her, but she doesn't want to tell people. So that was, like, a very interesting difference to me, just the way that that all played out. Most of the things leading up to the actual Hunger Games are fairly accurate to how they were in the books. So they, like, the mentors get to meet with their different candidates, and the candidates have, like, all sorts of gripes with the different mentors. Sejanus is really trying to get Marcus, who's a District 2 boy, to, like, be on his side, but Sejanus actually knows Marcus from before he left District 2, which is, like, really heartbreaking to watch. The other big changes, really, for me, happened in the arena. After the kids are put into the arena, and basically Coriolanus goes and scopes it out for Lucy Gray, and is like, Lucy Gray, you've got to get underground. Like, if you get underground, they cannot find you. You just gotta hide it out, let them fight it out up top, and that's fine. So in the book, there are no cameras in the tunnels, there's no cameras in the air ducts, they can't see what's going on. So they don't know, once Lucy Gray gets underground, they don't know where she is. And that goes for all of the contestants that end up underground. Once they're, like, doing things in the outside of the, like, main arena space, you can't see them, you don't know what's happening. So that was a key difference, I thought. And I could be wrong about that, but I, like, legitimately feel like they just didn't know, like, they had no idea where they were. They really weren't sure what was going on. Because I think at one point, one of the guys, like, grabbed a body from underground, and no one had seen how they died. They just threw it in the pile, because they have this, like, pile going of the, like, bodies of the different people who have been killed. The other thing, so Coriolanus gives Lucy Gray a compact that has powder in it. But except for in the book, when he gives it to her, there's nothing in it. It used to be his mom's, like, face powder, but he took the face powder out and gave it to her empty, because he was like, you can put something in here that could harm the contestants, wink, wink. But he doesn't actually do that. And so Lucy Gray ends up putting rat poisoning in it, and then she kills some people with rat poison later. Also, I feel like in the book, there was a longer time period between when the contestants came from the districts and when they got to go into the Hunger Games. Because in the movie, they really condensed this time period into, like, 2 days. But in the book, I think it's, like, a couple weeks, and multiple contestants die. So, like, there's one contestant that does, in the movie as well, get shot by the peace officers after killing her mentor. There's another contestant who, I think there's, like, 2 or 3 contestants who die of natural causes, like, outside of it. And then some of them get in a fight and one dies or something. So, like, by the time they get into the actual arena, there's only, like, 15 left, I want to say. Which they didn't really talk about in the movie. I don't really know, but I was trying to, like, go back and count everyone's deaths, and, like, maybe they did mention it, and I just, like, went right over my head. I'm not sure. But not a lot. Several of the deaths in the arena are different, okay? And especially, like, the last scene in the arena. So Lucy Gray, like I mentioned, has this compact of rat poison. She put some of it in a puddle, I think, which in the movie they show her pouring out the water that she's been sent from the, like, spectators or whatever. She pours that out, and she leaves one that has been poisoned with rat poisoning in the hopes of getting someone. In the movie, it's this girl, Dill, who I believe is District 11. I could be wrong about that. But she's Reaper's, like, female pair, and she has tuberculosis. And so she ends up drinking the rat poisoning and dying from rat poisoning. But I believe in the book, Dill doesn't drink the rat poison. She just dies from tuberculosis because she's sick. And then who ends up drinking the rat poison is Wovie. And in the movie, they have Wovie be the first to get eaten by snakes, which doesn't happen in the book. And also, it ends up in the book, it's between Reaper and Lucy Gray at the end, right? So, like, at the end, Lucy Gray, all the snakes get released, and Lucy Gray sings to them all, or whatever. And that happens. She's like in the tunnels, and she comes out of the tunnels with all these snakes following her after they've gone into the tunnel. So you think that she's going to die from being bit by snakes. And then later you find out that Coriolanus actually put some of her DNA or whatever in the snake tank so they won't bite her, right? So that happens. In the movie, you get to see him do all of that, which is very fun. But also, she's like out and about, and everybody pretty much dies from the snakes like immediately. Reaper just gets covered in snakes. He's like so torn up about Dill. This is the other thing I was gonna say. Reaper and Dill, I'm pretty sure, are from the same district as Rue, and I cannot remember the guy's name to save my life, from the first movie, right? Where Katniss really takes this liking to Rue, and she gives Rue like a proper funeral, and then the guy who was like Katniss's other, not Katniss, Rue's like other person who was with her, he really respects Katniss for that and then doesn't kill her when he gets the chance, right? So I think they tried to do a similar thing with this movie where Reaper, who was the male, what is it called? Not contestant. I don't remember what it's called. I'm so sorry. If people are watching this and they're just saying the word to me over and over again, but I'm just gonna keep calling them contestants, I guess. The male contestant from District 11 and Rue from and Dill from District 11. I think they were trying to do like the same thing again. Except for in this one, Lucy Gray, in the movie, they had Lucy Gray actually accidentally kill Dill by giving her rat poison on accident again. And then Reaper, I think, ends up dying. In the books, Reaper gets like attacked by snakes and it's very boring in the movie. But in the books, Reaper, Lucy Gray's running back and forth to try to tire Reaper out because he's like a big dude and I guess he's not as fast. So he gets so tired that he drinks from a puddle that has been poisoned by rat poisoning, and that's how he dies, and that's how Lucy Gray wins the Hunger Games in the books. In the movie, that scene is like very much cut short, and they really focus between Lucy Gray and Coral, I think is her name, which is the girl who was in charge of that, like, she had like a group of people, and they killed a lot of the different contestants along the way. But it was like her and like 3 boys were like their little like crew. I think that the movie just really wanted to focus on like one villain for the Hunger Games ring, and they focused on Coral. They also had her say, like, if I die right now, killing everyone I've killed is like not worth it. Like, what was it for? And I thought that was like a very interesting line to put in. And that might be directly from the books. I saw something that said that a lot of the lines were pulled directly from the books, but I don't remember them that clearly to know that. But I did think that was like a very like poignant thing to say at that point. That being said, I do wish that the Reaper scenes had been kept in because it did seem like too on the nose to have him and Dill be so similar to Rue and whatever that guy was. Do you know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. That's the arena. And then the other thing that I don't remember happening in the books, but that might have been, and now that I'm thinking about it, it must have been because Dr. Gall would have thought that the snakes would kill everybody in the arena. And the only reason they didn't kill Lucy Gray is because what's-his-name put her handkerchief in the tank, right? So I would have thought that that would have, you know, yeah. So it makes sense. I just didn't remember this being in the book, but now I think it probably was. Dr. Gall said that the reason that the tank of snakes was going in was she wanted to kill all the, God, what are they called? All the contestants. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. That is so annoying. She wanted to kill all the contestants and tributes. They're called tributes. God bless. I knew I could do this. She wanted to kill all of the tributes and have there not be a victor. And then the only reason that Lucy Gray ends up getting taken out of the snake pit, for lack of a better term, in the movie is because Coriolanus is like, who is going to watch the Hunger Games if there's no one to root for? Like, you have to have a victor because who cares if they all just die? Like, no one's going to care about that. And he's right, to be fair. So Lucy Gray gets out, and then Coriolanus is really excited to get to go like talk to her and see her again, but he doesn't actually get to because he gets kicked out of his program because they find out that she had the rat poison on her, and they also find out that he put his little handkerchief in the snake tank because he uses one that has his dad's initials on it, and his dad has like distinct, it's like CXS is his dad's initials, and X middle names aren't common, right? So he actually doesn't get to graduate. He has to go join, they're not called Peace Corps, peace officers, I think, which are like the police in the districts. So he gets shipped out to the districts. He gets shipped to District 12, which is where Lucy Gray is from, and he thinks that Lucy Gray has probably been killed because there's been no talk of her whatsoever, right? And so President Snow gets out there, he's in District 12, and he's really, like, he hasn't seen Lucy Gray, he's been there a couple days, he's really contemplating suicide, and who shows up but Sojournus? I think that's his name, right? I keep wanting to say Sojourner, like Sojourner Truth, but I think it's just Sojournus, which is just strange, but whatever. Sojournus shows up, right? And he said that he joined the peace officers. He got Dean Highbottom, I think his dad paid off Dean Highbottom to send him out to the districts. Because earlier, I completely forgot to mention this, in the arena, Sojournus feels so bad that people are dying that he goes and does this District 2 thing where he puts breadcrumbs on the bodies, right? And it's like a way to like feed you until you get to your next life. Like that's their belief, okay? And so Coriolanus has to go into the arena that that Sojournus somehow broke into, get Sojournus out, and then like that's what he has to do. He has to go in and get him out. Sojournus's mom, is like a big character in the books, not huge, but like she's the one who goes to get Coriolanus and is like, listen, my son is in there, you have to go get him. In the movie, Dr. Gall just comes to him and is like, I've been looping this, you've got to go in there and get him out because we all know you're friends, which is weird again because in the movie they don't seem like friends. In the books I get why they think that, but in the movie I don't really get it as much. So in the book it's Sojournus's mom. In the movie it's Dr. Gall who goes and makes him do it, okay? But in the books, Ma is like, I want to go do it, but they won't let me in. And so Coriolanus has to go and get Sojournus out. Coriolanus ends up killing someone, one of the tributes in the arena, because the tributes obviously are alerted that there are Capitol boys in there. And when he's trying to get Sojournus out, he ends up having to bludgeon, I think, to death one of the tributes. I don't remember which one now. But that being said, so Coriolanus like has his first real like I have killed someone when that happens. Anyways, fast forward. He is now a peace officer. Sojournus is a peace officer. Sojournus is like, I can't work in the Capitol anymore. I had to be out of there. That's why he joined the peace officers. But it's very apparent to everyone, I think, pretty quickly in both the book and the movie that Sojournus is up to no good. And then as they're hanging out, Coriolanus finds out that Lucy Gray is alive and well. She is performing back with her covey, which is like her group of people that are like all together as a family that used to just travel around a lot, but now we're stuck in District 12 because Pan Am doesn't let you travel between districts anymore. The Capitol says, nope, you stay where you stay, and that's where you stay. The other thing is when we got to this point in the movie, I was like, okay, so it's about halfway over because that's where it is in the book. The book is about half Hunger Games, half peace officer times Coriolanus' relationship with Lucy Gray. That's the other thing that I haven't mentioned so far. In both the books and the movie, they're like in love with each other. Like Coriolanus and Lucy Gray are like in a relationship. And in the books, they even kiss before she goes in the Hunger Games. And that's why he's trying so hard to like get her out. In the movie, they don't have them kiss until later, which I liked. I thought that was a good touch. But also I appreciated the early on kiss in the books because I think it shows Lucy Gray's like manipulative nature, if that makes sense. Like I think in the books she did that to manipulate him into helping her. Because she even says like, Coriolanus, if you really want to help me, you have to start acting like I can win these games. Like I will win these games. And he doesn't give her the compact, I think, until after she kisses him in the book. And he's like always thinking about that kiss and how connected to her he feels, right? And I do think that it was a manipulation tactic. And so when he shows up in District 12, she's obviously like excited to see him, seemingly, but also in the book, it does a much better job of explaining that he's like never quite sure how she feels about him. Like she is hanging out with him, they're like kissing, she's singing to him, but she doesn't like sing him any songs. She never writes him a song until the day she does write him a song. But the lyrics to the song aren't exactly like, what's the word? Like something that you would want someone to sing about you. Like it's talking about how cold he is and how he seeps in everywhere and she can't really get away from him. I don't have like the lyrics off the top of my head, but I thought that was a really interesting touch that I didn't notice when reading the book. And I'm sure the lyrics are the same because they tend to do that. But I remember hearing the song in the book and being like, oh, okay, she's finally singing about snow. I'm so glad that she's singing about snow because he'll be happy with that. But in the movie, it made more sense to me, things that happen later down the line, because the lyrics of the song are very like, not, I'm in love with you. That is not what she's saying. So I thought that was really interesting. Then, of course, the movie does a really good job of condensing it down to just the important parts. So Sojourner is working with these rebels, and he's trying to get them weapons and get them out of District 12. They're all going to go into the woods, and he's going to go with them because he is sick of being under the Capitol's thumb. He tries to tell Coriolanus this. Coriolanus is like, I really don't want you to tell me this. And then he keeps talking, and Coriolanus turns on these birds, which are called jabberjays in the book, but later they become mockingjays. I don't know exactly what the difference there is, but the jabberjays were a Capitol invention, and so they record what you say, and then you take it back to the lab, and they will play what you say. So he records Sejanus talking about wanting to help these rebels. He sends that bird off. Sejanus obviously gets caught from that, but that's not till later. So later that night, he walks in. He basically tells Sejanus, you can't do that. Like, don't do that. You can't do that. And what he thinks is going to happen is he thinks whoever hears the birds at the lab are going to hear them say this message, right? They're going to tell Sejanus' dad. Sejanus' dad is going to be like, we're getting him out of there, and he's going to go back to the Capitol, go to university, and live his life, right? So Coriolanus, in the book at least, genuinely does not see that his actions have like severe consequences or could have severe consequences, right? And so Sejanus keeps meeting up with the rebels. Coriolanus basically like catches him one night when Lucy Gray is singing the song about snow. Sejanus has left the table for some reason, or the bar. And so Coriolanus goes to find him. He's in the back room talking to Billy Tope, which is someone who used to be a part of Lucy Gray's like tour circuit. He's the one who actually told, like, he basically got Lucy Gray's name read at the reaping because he cheated on Lucy Gray, or cheated on, I don't know who, Mayfair is the girl. And she's the mayor's daughter, right? So he was either with Mayfair and cheated on Mayfair with Lucy Gray, or with Lucy Gray and cheated on Lucy Gray with Mayfair. Either way, Mayfair told her dad to read Lucy Gray's name at the reaping. That's why Lucy Gray got sent to the Hunger Games, okay? So, bad blood all around. Billy Tope, Mayfair, this other guy, Spruce, and Sejanus are all talking backstage at one of Lucy Gray's shows, and they are like discussing arms. They've got all these guns, and they're going to get out of Dodge, basically. And then Coriolanus comes and finds them. He's kept his relationship with Lucy Gray under wraps. That's the other thing that the book or the movie doesn't really touch on. But in the book, they keep talking about how weird it is that nobody knows who Lucy Gray is. Nobody knows who Coriolanus is. Like, nobody is aware that this whole like team of mentors helped with the Hunger Games, and nobody seems to have known what happened with the Hunger Games. And you find out more later in the books. I don't know if they mention it in the show or in the movie, but so that's like something that Coriolanus didn't think he'd be able to keep it under wraps, but when he found out he could, he was like, all right, Lucy Gray, we're not telling anyone we're together, okay? And so, except for like her cubby friends, they know, and obviously Sejanus knows, but no one else knows. So Lucy Gray follows him backstage, and then she sees all of this happening. Mayfair gets all pissed off because Billy Tope says that Lucy Gray's gonna go with them when they run away, and Mayfair's like, I don't want her coming with us. And then she's like, well, why don't I just go tell my dad, and all of you guys will hang, because Mayfair seems to do that. Coriolanus loses his mind, shoots Mayfair, and then Billy Tope is freaking out, so Spruce shoots Billy Tope. So both of them get killed, right, backstage. And Coriolanus takes, like, Sejanus is freaking out. Spruce is kind of freaking out. Coriolanus is basically like, Spruce, you've got to get rid of the weapons. Sejanus, you got to come with me and pretend like none of this ever happened. We went to the bathroom, we came back, and we're on stage. He's like, Lucy Gray, go back sing. Don't let anyone back here until, like, way later. So that's what they do. And they seemingly get away with it, and then this is the other, like, another really big difference between the book and the movie, okay? Coriolanus gets called to the, like, head peace officer's office or whatever, like, someone who's in charge, and that guy says, like, hey, you did this aptitude test, you scored really highly, we want to send you to District 2 for officer training. So you leave in about a couple days, right? So that happens, I think he has 10 days in the movie. That happens before the shooting, before all of this in the movie. In the book, it doesn't happen until after. So afterwards, Coriolanus Snow thinks that he's going to be, like, arrested for the shooting, and the guy's like, no, you just scored really highly on this aptitude test. We want to send you to District 2. You leave in the morning, or you leave in, like, 2 days. The other difference between the two is there's a conversation that he has with Lucy Gray. in both the book and the movie where she's like, if they find those guns, you are going to be in trouble. You and me have to run away together. That's what she tells him, okay? In both the book and the movie. In the book, she tells him that before he finds out he's going to officer school in District 2. So they have agreed to meet up to run away together. In the movie, she doesn't talk to him about it until after he already knows he's leaving. He doesn't tell her he's leaving. He's known for days. He doesn't tell her. In both the book and the movie, Lucy Gray makes a big deal about how she has to be able to trust someone, and without trust, there is no love for her. There's nothing else. Also, something that's not said in either the book or the movie, but I believe was a prevalent part of Coriolanus's mind. Coriolanus never planned on staying in the districts, right? He never planned on going out somewhere, living off the land the way Lucy Gray wants to. He always planned on returning to the capital. And frankly, he planned on returning to the capital super wealthy, super powerful, and putting the Snow name back up. That was what was always important to Coriolanus, was getting the Snow back on top, because he always says Snow falls on top. That's what he always wanted, was to recover his father's world. He wanted to get the nicest jewels. He wanted to get his family's penthouse back in tip-top shape. He wanted to be top of the world. Lucy Gray did not care about that. He mentions it a couple times about how he's going to hopefully get back to the capital someday, and Lucy Gray's going to go with him. I don't think Lucy Gray ever truly believed that he was going to do that, so she didn't care. And I don't think he truly believed that Lucy Gray didn't want to go back to the capital. So I think that was a key pitfall in their relationship. Oh, this is where we get back to the guns thing. So the day before they decide to leave, or that they're planning on leaving, in the book, they are planning on going with the whole troop, right? So Lucy Gray, Maud Ivory, all the people that she's with in the cubby, that is who she is going with. And she's invited Coriolanus to come along, and he said he will. Until he gets noticed that he's going to officer school, and then he's like, well, now I don't know if I'm going or not. But in the movie, it ends up, Lucy Gray comes and talks to him and is like, just you and me have to run, okay? In both the book and the movie, Spruce and Sejanus get caught up, and they think they're getting caught for the guns, right? So they think that the peace officers found the guns, and that basically Coriolanus should be next, right? But what happens is Coriolanus sent those birds to Dr. Gall, the Jabberjays, and the Jabberjays heard Spruce's name because Sejanus said it, and they heard Sejanus talking about helping Spruce and the other rebels, and so Spruce and Sejanus hang, right? So that is, I think, the first time that Coriolanus realizes that actions have consequences, and he does get really, really upset about this, to be fair. He genuinely did not think. His mind is boggled that they would just kill him and that his dad couldn't save him, okay? So he's shocked, appalled, cannot believe it. Keep in mind, Sejanus' whole family still thinks that Coriolanus is his best friend, right? They do not know that Coriolanus did this to him. They have no idea. And they aren't gonna find out. But Coriolanus agrees to run away because, again, he thought he was next, and then he finds out that he's not next. So again, the stakes keep getting raised for Coriolanus, and then they keep falling back down to where he feels fine. So he agrees to go, and him and Lucy Gray are gonna leave. It starts raining. They decide to go to this cabin by the lake that they've been at a couple times, and Coriolanus gets there. He's looking for fishing poles. He finds the guns that Spruce has hidden. Now, both the book and the movie mention this, but I feel the book did a better job of explaining what was really going on, for me personally. So on their way to the cabin, they were talking about if they would have to kill, and Coriolanus said something I really hope not. 3 people is enough for me. And Lucy Gray asks who the third person he killed is, because obviously she knows that he killed someone in the ring or in the arena, and she knows that he killed Mayfair, but she doesn't know who the other person he killed was. And because she doesn't know that he turned Sejanus in. And he says, well, I had to kill my old self, right? So that's what he explains it as. But she instantly is uh-oh, I don't trust this guy. He's lying. She just knows. When they get to the cabin and they find the guns, in the book, I really do truly think that, Lucy Gray didn't tell Coriolanus. There's a couple things that I have theories on. But Coriolanus, Lucy Gray told him that only the cubby knew about the gun, or not the guns, knew about the cabin. And then he gets there and realizes that Spruce also knew about the cabin. Spruce is not in the cubby. How did Spruce know about the cabin? I think Coriolanus thought either that Lucy Gray lied to him about how well-known this cabin was, or lied to him about her relationship with Spruce, because he already knew that she'd had a relationship with Billy Tope. And like, I just really think he couldn't trust her anymore at that point. In the movie, they go ahead and have her, like, I do think in the book that it was a thought process for Coriolanus that like, if I get rid of these guns, all of my loose ends are wrapped up except for Lucy Gray, who could tell on me. And in the movie, they literally have her say that. She's like, all of your loose ends are tied up except for me, huh? And then she goes out to like dig up Katniss, right, by the lake. And this is the part that my husband said was really confusing for him. So it might have been confusing for you as well. And I remember reading the book and being like, I don't really understand what's happening. So I had to re-listen to this part. But basically, they both don't trust each other. They both don't want the same things anymore. And so Coriolanus is going to go fishing. She's going to go hunt for Katniss. He gets rid of the guns, one of the guns first, or several of the guns first, but he keeps one because he's just got this feeling. And then he's walking through the woods trying to find Lucy Gray, but he can't find her anywhere. And he finds the scarf that he gave her that's like bright orange. And it has a snake in it, so he gets bit by the snake. And so that's when he knows, uh-oh, Lucy Gray is like coming after me, like she's trying to kill me, so I've got to try to kill her. And I'm still not 100% clear on why this is the way that they both went. Like, I understand him thinking that he's got to tie up loose ends by killing her. I don't understand her thinking unless she's just like so hurt by him not trusting her, or if she just like jumped ahead and knew that he would try to kill her. I'm really not sure entirely about that. But this scene also plays out quite differently than in the book. In the movie, it's like much quicker, and then she just sort of disappears. Whereas in the book, I think there's a lot more like following back and forth. Like at one point he sees her running and he's chasing after her. And then at another point, like she's like gaining on him, and like it's just a lot longer of a scene, I guess. And so after that, he walks back to camp. He gets his orders. He decides he's going to go to 2. He gets his like snake bite all healed up. And he gets sent off to District 2 to do officer training. But then actually they reroute him and send him to the Capitol. And he goes and talks to Dr. Gall. And she basically says, I arranged for you to be a peace officer for the summer. And it was all my idea. And now you're going to come work for me at the lab. And you're going to get your education under me. And that is sort of how President Snow became how he is. Also, I don't know if this was mentioned in the book, but in the movie, the Plinths now don't have a child. And they see Coriolanus, since he was their son's best friend, as their heir. And so they give him the Plinth Prize, which is all the money that he wanted to win at the first place. And they like bolster his career. He's able to put his family back on top, like Snow falls on top. And it's this whole like thing. So maybe it is his villain origin story. I don't know. But like, he really does have to at every turn outsmart everyone around him. It very much is like his own personal Hunger Games, because if any of those other people had survived, like he would not be where he is, if that makes sense. Another big difference that I didn't mention because I wasn't sure where to put it between the book and the movie, right? The book does mention District 13, which if you've seen the Hunger Games original trilogy, which I'm assuming you have, you know that District 13 was bombed to bits and pieces during the war, and there was actually an underground civilization living there. So the book is very clear that that is where Lucy Gray and all of those people are trying to go. And Coriolanus doesn't believe in it, right? Like he's like, that's not a real thing. I don't believe it. Like District 13's not there anymore, whatever. In the movie, they don't really mention where they're going. They just want to go somewhere where the capital is not in control, right? So maybe if you've seen all the movies and read all the books, you would know that. I don't know. But I just thought it was interesting that they didn't like call it by name, because it was called by name in the books. Like I just thought it was strange that they like took that part out of it. But this video has been extremely long. I hope I got all of the differences. I think I did. Like the main differences honestly are like things to save time, I think. So I think the primary thing that they do differently in the film that they didn't do in the book is they cut scenes that aren't as important and they combine scenes to make the time go faster. Because obviously this is already like almost a 3-hour movie. And they really did condense a lot of it. And I really appreciate it as well for the film that they spent so much more time in the Hunger Games arena, because that is like the best part of the Hunger Games. I don't mean to sound like morbid and like scary, but like I did not like Mockingjay as much as a book because I did not care about the rebellion, all right? I was there for the games. That was the interesting part to me, which again, maybe is very macabre of me, but like the book, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, it spent so much time in the like District 12 with like the love story aspect that frankly felt for naught to me because I didn't really ever buy into it fully. There was always something off with it, and I wish the something off had been a little more pronounced, or that there had been a bigger betrayal. I don't know exactly what I wanted from that, but I wanted it to be slightly different. Let me know if there's just like a quality that the romance did not have for me. And part of it's believability in the actual romance, and then also part of it is believability in the fallout. So like, I felt like the stakes were never high enough to make the stakes of the fallout make sense, if that makes sense. But also like, I don't really know. So if you have thoughts, please leave them in the comments down below. But yeah, this is my review of A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Who is the songbird? Who is the snake? Just kidding. The whole point is that everyone is everything, right? Yeah, we all got that. It's like Pride and Prejudice. They're both proud. They're both prejudiced. We get it. Okay, great. We are all things at once. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it to this point, leave a snake emoji in the comments down below, or a bird, or both, you know, whatever you want to do. And I will see you in another video very soon.